welcome to ASTROBRO13's first episode of his new YouTube series called ASTROBRO13's Retro Game Console and Computer Reviews. And today, for the first episode, I'm going to be reviewing the one and only NES, or the Nintendo Entertainment System, or in Japan, also known as the Nintendo Famicom. And I'm going to explain a little history on this. This game console was originally made as originally called the Nintendo Famicom. Was released in Japan in 1983, 2 years before this NES's release. Nintendo was wanting to make a cartridge-based game console, during this was this was a little before the North American video game crash of 1983. This was Nintendo Famicom was released in Japan during 1983, and it had smaller cartridges than your average NES cartridge, like these. This is a North American European game cartridge, but they seem to be a little smaller because it used a 60-pin connector. And they released games on the Nintendo Famicom, like their arcade hits like Mario Bros. This is the very first Mario Bros, not Super Mario Bros. And Donkey Kong Jr., and etc. They were pretty popular at the time, but there's something that they were wanting to do in the future. 2 years later, they wanted to release their console to many other countries like Canada, United States, and Mexico, and other places. But first off, in 1985, they were wanting to redesign the whole thing to make it for the North American and European markets. But the European markets came a year later after the North American release. And so this is the one from 1985 model. This is the NES model 001. So this was the first NES. Well, not the very first, because there were a bunch of models made after that. And so this Nintendo Entertainment System was made in 1985, like I mentioned before. And it was during October 18th. And they released this with a bunch of other games, like also known as the black box games, like the very first NES games, like Super Mario Bros., Dynamite, Stack 'em Up, Ice Climber, and etc. There's a bunch of games that go on and on and on. And for this Entertainment System in Europe, it was released in 1986, and in North America and the European markets, they also sold some more black box games like Donkey Kong Jr., Popeye, and so much more. It goes on. And I'm going to explain the hardware now, because it's kind of get a little boring. Here, I'm going to go to it. So it shows the logo. It says Nintendo Entertainment System. This is the lid where you put the cartridge in. You put the cartridge in and you push it down. It's not like the top loaders back in the early 80s where you had to put them on the top. You just load it in like a cassette. This is also known as the toaster, because the way you put it in and stuff. So yeah, and here is the power button and the reset button. And here is the controller ports, number 1 and 2. There were other accessories that would make you have 4-player, and a few games only played with 4-player on the NES, and most of the video games on the NES played with 1 or 2 players. So you might have, so the 4-player games are pretty rare nowadays. I'm gonna explain. Oh, here's a little more. And this was a big thing for them because when audio video came out, this was believed to be one of the first audio video game consoles, because the other game consoles would use RF or cable and stuff like that, and you have to have the switch boxes and everything like that, like the ColecoVision or the Atari or the Intellivision, etc. And here's the back. So this is the AC adapter right here. This is where you put your power supply in, and they use a 6-volt, I think 12-watt AC adapter. And this is what they use. And there's the switch to change from channel 3 to channel 4. Like if you want to change a different channel, if you want to like watch TV or do different stuff. Here's the RF plug-in. This is where you plug in your cable or your switch box and stuff like that, if you wanted to do it the older way. And so yeah, this is basically the hardware. It includes the air vents too. It makes it have that cool space age look, like the different consoles back in the day. And so I'm gonna let you look at the controller. So here you go. This is the controller. The Famicom controller looks identical to this. It's just there's some slight artwork changes to it. Like it's not like the gold and the reddish brown or burgundy, whatever the color was. It's a gray and black, red kind of style to it, kind of colors, because they wanted to separate the differences with the Japanese Famicom and the North American and European Nintendo Entertainment System. So here's the D-pad. It's Nintendo was believed to be the first to come out with the D-pad, because others came out with joysticks and number pads and stuff like that. And here's a select and start button. It was not really available back in the 80s until the NES came out. And this allowed you to select different player modes, and this allowed you to start your game or pause the game. It was a big deal back then. And here's the B and A button. They're red, and the Famicom, it's a different color, as you can see, like on pictures on Google, whatever engine you use. And there's the Nintendo logo. Make sure no one can copyright it and stuff like that. But apparently, Sega released the Master System and had a controller similar to that design, but had different look to the whole thing, the whole controller and stuff like that. Now for the Nintendo Zapper, this came with the action set, like for the gun required games like Duck Hunt, Wild Gunman, a bunch of those games. This was a pretty big deal too, even though there are the light zappers from the Coleco Telstar and the Magnavox Odyssey. This was a bigger change to the light gun and the way it looks, because it looks futuristic. And what the Coleco Telstar and the Magnavox Odyssey, they made it look like just like a normal gun. Like for the Famicom, their gun didn't look like this. It looked like the ones by Coleco and whatever other companies and stuff like that. They made it look like a revolver pistol. Like Wild Gunman, make it look all Western and stuff like this. But for the North American model, they made it look more futuristic, and it just made it look pretty cool with the nice new design that they came out with the new NES at the time. And now, anyway, so yeah, that's basically the accessories. But there are more accessories that come with this. There was the power pad that you would step on and make it like kind of like a Wii Fit and stuff like that, but it wasn't like that. And there was Rob, the robotic operating buddy, which I don't have at this time, but it was a pretty cool thing back then, because there was nothing like that compared to other game consoles. All they used was just controllers and trackballs like the Atari, stuff like that. Oh, and also there's another one. I actually have another accessory. There's another accessory later on, is called the Power Glove. So this Power Glove, it would be used. It was kind of like the very first Wii controller. Apparently, it wasn't for the Wii, but it was like the earliest version of the Wii controller, because it wasn't exactly wireless, but it can move stuff without you having to use the buttons and stuff like that. So if you wanted to jump, like if you were playing Super Mario, you would crunch or clutch your hands in a fist, and it would make Mario jump. Or Donkey Kong, you would make Jumpman jump just by making a fist. But you can also put like in codes, like to do certain things, like instead of having to use a Game Genie and stuff like that. But the Game Genie wasn't very good, like I've heard from so many people. And later on in the late 80s, the Famicom had the Power Glove and stuff like that. But now let's get to the game and see how it works. But show you what it looks like. So it's the big cartridge like this. I think I showed you a little earlier in this video. I'm just going to show you again. This is what the North American one looks like. The Famicom it's half the size, and the Famicom used a 60-pin connector. In the NES, in the North American and European version, they used a 72-pin connector for their cartridges. Make him have a big difference between each other. No, they don't look the same. Now let's get to the game, and I'm gonna hook up the NES soon and play this game, Super Mario Bros. Okay, so I got the TV started up for you on channel 3, and I'm gonna show you like how to put it in. So you open this, push it in. You see here, and put it in here. Then turn it on. So here, and there we go. We got Super Mario Brothers. Copyright 1985 Nintendo, and I'll show you the controls, a little bit of the controls here. So press start. Go to the menu. I'll this will be a lot better to see for you. And here we go. One player game. A nice theme in the beginning. It's pretty good. Yeah. The secret pipe. If anybody wants you, if you want to know that, then this is how you get in, and skip the whole entire level in about 20 seconds. So I gotta jump over these guys. Scared them off. Run away. You can run, but you can't hide. And I got to the top. So this is review on NES. I'm going to be doing Atari 2600, and see you guys later. Bye.